Pressure is coming. Not maybe. Not someday. It's coming. And it doesn't care how smart you are. It doesn't care how talented you are. It doesn't care how much potential you have. Pressure only asks one question. Can you stay in control when everything inside you wants to react? That's the key. Because when pressure hits, most people don't fail from lack of ability. They fail because their nervous system takes over. They rush. They panic. They speak too much. They explain themselves. They give away authority without realizing it. And while they're reacting, someone calmer replaces them. You have a choice. The truth most people never learn. Here is the truth no one prepares you for. The world does not reward emotion. It rewards control. Not control over others. Control over yourself. Every career that collapsed early didn't collapse from incompetence. It collapsed from emotional leakage. Every relationship that broke down didn't fail from lack of logic. It failed from unmanaged stress. Every leader who lost respect didn't lose intelligence. They lost composure. Pressure doesn't create weakness. Pressure reveals it. That's the key. Why stress is so dangerous. Stress is not just a feeling. It's a biological takeover. When stress hits, your body believes you're in danger. Your heart rate increases. Your breathing shortens. Your thinking narrows. And suddenly, decisions are no longer strategic. They're reactive. That's why intelligent people still self-sabotage. They know better. But they can't do better under pressure. Because knowledge doesn't run your behavior. Your nervous system does. You have a choice. Reaction versus response. Reaction is automatic. Response is trained. Reaction is emotional relief. Response is long-term power. Reaction feels urgent. Response feels calm. Reaction gives up control. Response keeps it. Say it clearly. Reaction is weakness. Response is power. That phrase will follow you through this entire audiobook. Because every chapter builds one skill. The ability to pause. And choose. Instead of collapsing into reaction. That's the key. Why calm is not a personality trait. Calm is not something you're born with. It's not reserved for certain people. Calm is a skill. A trained behavior. A conditioned nervous system. Anyone can learn it. But very few are willing to train it. Because training calm requires discipline. And discipline is uncomfortable. You don't need their permission to change this. What this audiobook will do. This audiobook will not motivate you. It will condition you. It will retrain how your body responds to pressure. How your mind behaves under stress. How your behavior looks when things go wrong. So instead of reacting, you respond. Instead of explaining, you pause. Instead of rushing, you slow the pace. And that changes everything. That's the key. Who this is for, and who it's not. This is not for people who want comfort. This is not for people who blame circumstances. Or wait for motivation. Or expect pressure to disappear. Pressure is not optional. This is for people who want authority over themselves. People who understand that calm is not weakness. It's dominance under control. If that's you, stay. Welcome to the channel. If you're new here, we're genuinely glad you're with us. This space is built for people who want clarity, control, and discipline under pressure. If our work helps you, your support with a like tells us to keep going. And to create more content like this for you. Now, let's begin. Final setup before Chapter 1. From this point forward, everything changes. Every stressful moment will ask you the same question. Will you react, or will you respond? Will emotion decide, or will discipline decide? You have a choice. And the moment you learn to stay calm under pressure, you stop being replaceable. Pressure doesn't break you. It shows you. This audiobook is for people who choose discipline over distraction. If you're still listening, you already belong here. Chapter 1. Your nervous system is not neutral. You think you're making decisions. You're not. Your nervous system is. Long before logic shows up. Long before discipline speaks. Long before intention matters. Your nervous system decides first. And if it's untrained, it will choose survival over success every single time. That's the key. This is why intelligent people self-sabotage. This is why talented professionals panic under pressure. This is why people who know better still react badly when it counts. Not because they're weak. Not because they're incapable. But because their nervous system defaults to protection, not progress. You have a choice. Train it, or let it run you. The truth about stress. Your nervous system is not designed to help you succeed. It is designed to help you survive. That's not an opinion. That's biology. It was built to respond to predators, hunger, danger, and physical threat. Not deadlines. Not criticism. Not performance pressure. Not social judgment. So when stress hits, your body doesn't ask, "What's the smartest move?" It asks, "How do I protect myself right now?" And protection looks like this. Defensiveness. Over-explaining. Emotional reactions. Rushed decisions. Raised voice. Tight body. Shallow breathing. That's survival mode. And survival mode is the enemy of authority. An untrained nervous system will sabotage trained skills. Say it again. An untrained nervous system will sabotage trained skills. That's the rule most people never learn. Why smart people still react. You've seen it. The competent manager who loses respect in one meeting. The skilled professional who talks themselves into a corner. The leader who melts under pressure and never recovers their authority. They didn't suddenly become incompetent. They became dysregulated. Their nervous system took over. And when that happens, logic shuts down. You start explaining instead of deciding. You start reacting instead of leading. You start defending instead of holding position. It's not about intelligence. It's about regulation. It's not about talent. It's about discipline. You don't rise to the level of your knowledge. You fall to the level of your nervous system. That's the key. Real-world example, the meeting that ends careers. Picture this. A high-level meeting. Pressure is high. Deadlines are tight. Expectations are clear. One person stays calm. They speak slowly. They listen. They pause before responding. Another person rushes, interrupts, explains too much, defends every point emotionally. Same intelligence, same experience, different nervous systems. Who do you trust? Who do you promote? Who do you listen to next time? Authority isn't claimed. It's felt. And stress leaks authority instantly. An untrained nervous system will sabotage trained skills. Stress is not the enemy. Stress is not the problem. Untrained response is. Stress reveals habits you've been avoiding. Pressure doesn't create chaos. It exposes it. If calm lives inside you, pressure reveals calm. If chaos lives inside you, pressure exposes chaos. You don't get to choose whether pressure comes. You only choose how prepared you are. You have a choice. The survival loop. Here's what happens when your nervous system is untrained. Stress hits, body tightens. Breath shortens, mind narrows. Emotion spikes, logic fades. Then you react. And once you react, you spend hours explaining, apologizing, or justifying. That's the loop. And it repeats. Over time, people stop trusting you under pressure. Not because you're wrong, but because you're unstable. That's the cost no one talks about. Calm is a biological state. Calm is not positive thinking. Calm is regulation. Slow breath. Loose jaw. Relaxed shoulders. Still eyes. These are not small things. They tell your nervous system, I am safe. I am in control. And once your body feels safe, your mind becomes useful again. That's the key. You don't think your way into calm. You regulate your way into clarity. What you must stop doing. If you want authority, stop doing this under stress. Stop explaining yourself. Stop filling silence. Stop rushing to respond. Stop defending emotionally. These are survival behaviors. They feel urgent. They feel necessary. They are not. They are signs of a nervous system trying to protect itself. You don't need their permission to pause. You don't need approval to breathe. You don't need validation to stay still. What you must start doing. Here's what disciplined people do instead. They slow their breath first. They lower their voice. They speak less. They move deliberately. They choose response over reaction. Every time. That's the difference. You have a choice. Training begins with awareness. The first discipline is noticing. Notice when your body tightens. Notice when your voice speeds up. Notice when your chest compresses. That's your signal. Not to react, but to regulate. That pause, that single pause, is where power lives. This is conditioning, not comfort. This audiobook is not here to comfort you. It's here to condition you. Because pressure will not wait until you're ready. And the world will not slow down for your emotions. An untrained nervous system will sabotage trained skills. Memorize that. Before we continue, take a moment. If this message resonates with you, if you recognize yourself in these patterns, know that you're not alone. This channel exists for people who want control, not chaos. Clarity, not reaction. Discipline, not emotional noise. If this work helps you, your support keeps it going. Now, stay with me. You now understand something critical. Your nervous system is not neutral. It is either trained, or it is in control. And if it's untrained, it will choose survival every time pressure appears. Now let's go deeper. Because once you see how your body decides before your mind does, you'll understand why calm is not optional. Chapter 2: Stress steals authority first. Authority is not lost in arguments. It's not lost in failure. It's not even lost in mistakes. Authority is lost the moment stress becomes visible. Before people stop listening to you, they stop trusting your emotional stability. And once that trust is gone, no title, no skill, no intelligence will bring it back. That's the key. Stress doesn't destroy your position first. It destroys how people feel around you. And feelings decide authority long before logic does. The silent nature of authority. Authority is quiet. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't rush. It doesn't over-explain. Authority is sensed. People feel it in your posture, your pace, your tone, your silence. The moment stress leaks through your behavior, authority leaks with it. Not dramatically, not all at once, but enough. Enough to change how people look at you. Enough to change how they listen. Enough to change whether they follow. When stress decides, authority disappears. Say it again. When stress decides, authority disappears. Why stress signals weakness, even when you're right? Here's the uncomfortable truth. You can be correct and still lose authority. You can have the best idea in the room and still lose influence. Why? Because stress signals instability. Raised voice, fast speech, rigid posture, defensive explanations, emotional tone. These signals tell others, this person is under pressure. And the human brain does something automatic when it senses that. It starts looking elsewhere for stability. That's biology. People don't follow the smartest person under pressure. They follow the calmest one. That's the key. Real-world example, the leader who lost the room. You've seen this before. A leader walks into a meeting already tense. Deadlines are tight. Expectations are high. Someone challenges their plan. Instead of pausing, they react. They speak faster. They interrupt. They explain too much. Their words may be logical, but their delivery isn't regulated. And something shifts. People stop asking questions. They stop engaging. They stop trusting. Not because the leader is wrong, but because the leader is visibly stressed. Authority doesn't collapse loudly. It erodes quietly. When stress decides, authority disappears. Stress makes you predictable. Stress does something else that's dangerous. It makes you predictable. When people know you react emotionally under pressure, they learn how to control the interaction. They wait. They push. They provoke. And you give away leverage every time you react. Calm people are unpredictable. They pause when expected to react. They stay silent when others would explain. They slow down when others rush. That unpredictability creates respect. And respect creates authority. Why rushing is the fastest way to lose control. Rushing is stress in motion. Fast speech. Fast decisions. Fast reactions. It signals one thing clearly. I am not in control. Even when you are capable. Even when you are prepared. Rushing makes you look managed by the moment. Calm people control the pace. They don't match urgency. They set tempo. That's authority. You have a choice. The cost of visible stress. Let's be clear. Visible stress costs you promotions, trust, influence, leadership opportunities. Not because people are cruel, but because people seek stability. No one hands responsibility to someone who looks overwhelmed by it. That's not judgment. That's instinct. When stress decides, authority disappears. What authority actually looks like under pressure? Authority under pressure looks like this. Slower breathing. Fewer words. Longer pauses. Neutral tone. Relaxed body. This isn't passivity. It's control. It's saying, without words, I can handle this. That message lands before anything you say. What you must stop doing under stress. If you want authority, stop these behaviors immediately. Stop defending yourself emotionally. Stop explaining your intentions. Stop reacting to every challenge. Stop trying to prove competence. You don't need their permission to stay calm. Authority doesn't prove itself. It holds itself. It's not about being liked. It's about being trusted. That's the key. What you must start doing instead. Here's the replacement discipline. Pause before speaking. Lower your voice slightly. Shorten your sentences. Let silence work. Silence makes emotional people uncomfortable. Calm makes them adjust. That shift is power. You have a choice. Authority is a nervous system signal. Let's say this clearly. Authority is not a personality trait. It's a nervous system signal. People trust regulated bodies. They distrust reactive ones. Your calm tells others, this situation is manageable. Your stress tells them, this might fall apart. They respond accordingly. Stress under pressure versus calm under pressure. Stress says, I need this to go right. Calm says, I can handle whatever happens. Which one would you follow? That's the key. Daily training for authority. This is how you train authority daily. Practice slowing your breathing under mild stress. Practice pausing before responding. Practice saying less, not more. Practice holding eye contact calmly. These are not small habits. They are authority drills. An untrained nervous system will sabotage trained skills. If you're recognizing these patterns in yourself, that's not failure. That's awareness. And awareness is where control begins. This channel exists to help you build that control, step by step, moment by moment. Stay with this process. Reinforcement. Say it one last time. When stress decides, authority disappears. And authority doesn't come from force. It comes from composure. Now you understand this. Authority isn't about position. It's about regulation. And stress always attacks authority first. So the next question becomes obvious. If calm is the foundation of authority, why do some people seem to have it naturally? They don't. They trained it. Stay with the process. This part matters. Chapter 3, Calm is a skill, not a personality trait. Some people look calm under pressure. And you assume they were born that way. They weren't. That belief is one of the most dangerous lies you can tell yourself. Because the moment you believe calm is a personality trait, you give up responsibility for developing it. That's the key. Calm is not who you are. Calm is what you practice. And anything that can be practiced can be trained. You have a choice. The myth that keeps people weak. Here's the myth. I'm just not a calm person. I'm naturally emotional. That's just my personality. No. That's not personality. That's conditioning. You weren't born reactive. You were trained to be reactive. Through stress. Through environment. Through repetition. And what was trained can be retrained. It's not about temperament. It's about discipline. Say it clearly. It's not about personality. It's about practice. Why this belief is so comfortable. Believing calm is genetic feels relieving. It lets you off the hook. It turns responsibility into fate. Effort into identity. Discipline into luck. But that belief quietly guarantees one thing. You will keep reacting the same way under pressure. And pressure will keep punishing you for it. Calm people didn't get lucky. They trained. Real-world example, the naturally calm professional. You've seen this person. In chaos, they don't rush. When criticized, they don't defend. Under pressure, they slow down. And people say, they're just naturally calm. What you don't see. Years of emotional restraint. Thousands of moments where they didn't react. Countless times they chose regulation over release. Calm didn't appear. It was installed. That's the key. Calm is a muscle. Calm behaves like a muscle. Unused, it's weak. Trained, it's reliable. The first time you try to stay calm under pressure, it feels unnatural. Uncomfortable. Even wrong. That doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're training. Just like the gym. Weakness feels awkward. Strength feels controlled. An untrained nervous system will sabotage trained skills. But a trained nervous system amplifies them. Why emotional people think calm is fake. Here's something important. People who react emotionally often think calm people are detached, cold, or not authentic. That's projection. What they're really seeing is discipline. Calm doesn't mean you don't feel. It means feelings don't control behavior. That's maturity. That's authority. That's power. You don't need their permission to be composed. Reaction is automatic. Calm is chosen. Reaction is reflex. Calm is decision. Reaction happens fast. Calm takes intention. That's why reaction feels honest and calm feels forced at first. But honesty without discipline is chaos. And chaos is expensive. You have a choice. The cost of believing calm isn't trainable. If you believe calm isn't trainable, you will avoid high-pressure situations. Justify emotional outbursts. Blame stress instead of training. Stay predictable under pressure. And predictability under stress is weakness. Calm people surprise others. They don't respond how they're expected to. That's leverage. How calm is actually built. Calm is built in small, boring moments. Not during crisis. Before it. Here's how. Slowing your breath when irritated. Pausing before replying to minor stress. Holding posture when uncomfortable. Staying silent when provoked. These are reps. No one applauds them. No one sees them. But pressure will reveal them. Why calm feels unnatural at first. Your nervous system is used to release. Reacting releases tension. Explaining releases anxiety. Defending releases fear. Calm does not release. It contains. And containment feels uncomfortable until trained. That discomfort is growth. That's the key. Calm is not suppression. Let's be clear. Calm is not stuffing emotions down. Suppression is tension. Calm is regulation. You feel emotion, but you don't let it drive behavior. That distinction changes everything. Daily training protocol. Here's a simple discipline you can practice daily. When stress appears, breathe slower than you want to. Speak less than you want to. Move slower than you want to. That's it. Simple. Not easy. You have a choice every time. Why calm creates authority instantly? Calm signals safety. Safety creates trust. Trust creates influence. Influence creates opportunity. That chain starts in your nervous system. Not your words. That's the key. Stop waiting to feel calm. This matters. You don't wait to feel calm before acting calmly. You act calmly, and the feeling follows. Behavior leads emotion. Not the other way around. Discipline first. Relief later. Repetition anchor. Say it again. Calm is a skill. Not a personality trait. Calm is trained. Not inherited. Calm is chosen. Not discovered. If this chapter challenges how you see yourself, that's a good sign. It means growth is possible. You're not broken. You're not defective. You're simply untrained, and training can begin at any moment. Stay with this. Now you understand this. Calm is not who you are. It's what you practice. And practice rewires the body before it changes the mind. So now we go deeper. Because if calm is a skill, we need to understand the system that runs it. What you repeat, you become. Most people stop before this point. You didn't. Chapter 4. Your nervous system is running your life. You think your thoughts are in charge. They're not. You think your willpower decides your behavior. It doesn't. Your nervous system is running your life. Every decision. Every reaction. Every moment under pressure. And until you accept that, you will keep fighting the wrong enemy. That's the key. You don't lose control because you don't care enough. You lose control because your body takes over. You have a choice. The hidden driver behind your behavior. Most people believe their mind leads. It doesn't. Your body does. Your nervous system constantly scans the environment and asks one question. Am I safe? If the answer is yes, you get access to logic, patience, and restraint? If the answer is no, your body activates survival mode. And survival mode doesn't care about your goals. It cares about immediate protection. That's why you react when you promised yourself you wouldn't. That's why you speak when silence would serve you. That's why you rush decisions you later regret. An untrained nervous system will sabotage trained skills. Why willpower fails under pressure? Willpower is fragile. It works when conditions are calm. It collapses when stress rises. Why? Because willpower lives in the mind. Stress lives in the body. And the body always wins. That's the key. You don't lose discipline under pressure. Your nervous system overrides it. So stop blaming yourself for not trying hard enough. Start training the system that's actually in control. Survival mode versus performance mode. There are two primary states your nervous system operates in. Survival mode. Shallow breathing. Tight muscles. Fast speech. Emotional reactivity. Narrow focus. Performance mode. Deep breathing. Relaxed body. Slower pace. Clear thinking. Broad awareness. You don't choose these states with intention alone. You enter them through regulation. That's the key. Real-world example, the skilled professional who falls apart. You've seen this. Someone brilliant on paper. Talented. Prepared. But under pressure, they stumble. They overtalk. They panic. It's not because they forgot what they know. Their nervous system shut the door on it. Stress took the wheel. And once that happens, logic becomes a passenger. Why stress feels personal, but isn't? Stress feels like failure. It's not. It's physiology. Your nervous system doesn't care about your reputation. It doesn't care about timing. It doesn't care about consequences. It cares about perceived threat. And modern threats are psychological, not physical. Deadlines. Criticism. Expectations. Judgment. Your body reacts as if a predator is present. That's outdated hardware running modern software. And it explains almost every self-sabotaging moment you've ever had. Reaction is a body event. Reaction happens before thought. Before logic. Before values. Before intention. That's why telling yourself to stay calm rarely works. You can't command a dysregulated system. You have to regulate it. That's the key. Why calm people seem unbothered? Calm people aren't less emotional. They're more regulated. Their nervous system stays in performance mode longer. So when pressure hits, they don't spike immediately. They pause. That pause is everything. That pause gives them access to choice. You have a choice. The cost of letting your nervous system run untrained. If you don't train your nervous system, it will. Decide your tone. Decide your timing. Decide your words. Decide your mistakes. And you'll spend years explaining actions you didn't mean to take. That's exhausting. That's unnecessary. And it's fixable. Regulation comes before discipline. This matters. Discipline does not start with behavior. It starts with the nervous system. You can't discipline chaos. You regulate it first. Slow breath, calm body, clear mind, disciplined action. That order never changes. That's the key. Simple regulation techniques, do this daily. Here is how you begin taking control back. 1. Breathing. Slow your exhale longer than your inhale. This signals safety. 2. Posture. Relax your shoulders. Unclench your jaw. Unlock your hands. 3. Pace. Slow your movement slightly. Your body follows speed. Practice this when stress is mild. That's training. Why practice must happen before crisis? You don't train during crisis. You reveal training during crisis. If you wait until pressure hits to try to regulate, you're already late. Calm is built in ordinary moments. That's the key. Stop identifying with stress. Stress is a state, not an identity. You are not an anxious person. You are a person with an unregulated nervous system. That distinction gives you power. Because states can change. Identities feel permanent. You have a choice. Repetition anchor. Say it clearly. Your nervous system is running your life. And until you train it, it will choose survival over success. Every time. If this chapter explains patterns you've struggled with for years, that's not coincidence. That's clarity. You're not alone in this. And you're not beyond change. This work is about reclaiming control, slowly, deliberately, permanently. Stay with it. Now you understand something critical. Your nervous system decides before your mind speaks. And when it's unregulated, it pushes you into behaviors that cost you authority. So next, we address one of the most common and damaging reactions under stress. The urge to explain. You don't need to explain yourself. You just need to stay consistent. Chapter 5. Stop explaining yourself under stress. The moment you start explaining yourself under pressure, you've already lost leverage. Not because you're wrong. Not because you're weak. But because explanation is a stress response. That's the key. Calm people don't explain. They decide. And the faster you learn the difference, the faster your authority returns. You have a choice. Why you explain when you're stressed? Let's be honest. You don't explain because you want clarity. You explain because your nervous system feels threatened. Explanation is not logic. It's self-protection. Your body senses risk, rejection, judgment, loss of control, and it tries to reduce that risk by talking. Filling silence. Adding context. Justifying intention. But here's the problem. The more you explain, the less confident you appear. That's not fair, but it's real. When stress decides, authority disappears. Explanation signals instability. People don't hear explanations the way you think they do. Under pressure, explanation sends one message. This person needs approval. And the moment you need approval, authority shifts away from you. Calm people don't rush to be understood. They trust that clarity will come later. That trust is power. That's the key. Real-world example, talking yourself out of respect. Picture this. You're questioned in a meeting. One response is enough. But you keep going. You add reasons. You clarify tone. You defend intent. No one asked for all that. And something changes. People stop listening. They start evaluating. You didn't gain clarity. You created doubt. An untrained nervous system will sabotage trained skills. Why silence feels dangerous? Silence feels dangerous when your nervous system is activated. It feels like exposure. Like losing control. So you talk to regain safety. But silence isn't danger. Silence is neutrality. And neutrality keeps authority intact. That's the key. Calm people let discomfort exist. Here's the difference. Emotional people try to remove discomfort immediately. Calm people allow it. They let tension sit in the room. They let others process. They let silence do the work. That restraint separates leaders from reactors. You don't need their permission to pause. Explanation versus response. Explanation. Long. Emotional. Defensive. Justifying. Response. Short. Neutral. Direct. Grounded. Explanation reacts. Response decides. Reaction is weakness. Response is power. Say it again. Reaction is weakness. Response is power. Why explaining makes stress worse? Explaining doesn't calm your nervous system. It feeds it. More words, more engagement, more stress. You think you're resolving tension. You're amplifying it. Calm lowers stimulation. Explanation increases it. That's the key. The discipline of saying less. Authority grows when words shrink. Short sentences. Clear pauses. Neutral tone. That's discipline. You don't need to win the moment. You need to hold the position. And holding position requires restraint. What to do instead of explaining. Here's the replacement behavior. When stressed, answer only what was asked. Stop after the sentence ends. Breathe before adding more. If silence follows, let it. Silence is not failure. Silence is space. And space restores control. You have a choice. Why calm people are rare. Most people can't tolerate the discomfort of not explaining. They'd rather talk themselves into weakness than sit in silence with strength. Calm people are rare because discipline is rare. That's the truth. Stop trying to be understood immediately. This matters. Urgency to be understood is emotional. Clarity takes time. Calm people trust the process. They don't force alignment. They allow it. That patience is authority. Daily training exercise. Practice this today. When someone challenges you, pause for 2 seconds. Respond in 1 sentence. Stop speaking. Notice the urge to continue. That urge is your nervous system. Training begins there. Repetition anchor. Say it clearly. Explanation under stress is weakness. Calm does not justify itself. Authority does not rush. If this chapter hits close to home, you're not alone. Most people were never taught this. You're learning it now, and that puts you ahead. Stay with the discipline. You now understand this. Explaining is a stress reflex, not a requirement. And the less you explain under pressure, the more grounded you become. Next, we go deeper. Because once you stop reacting and explaining, you need something else to stay steady. Distance. Here's what most people never realize. Every time you explain yourself under stress, you are teaching your nervous system that pressure equals danger. You reinforce the loop. Stress hits, you talk temporary relief, future stress hits harder. That's conditioning in the wrong direction. Your body learns. If I explain fast enough, I'll be safe. But safety built on explanation is fragile. Because the next time pressure arrives, you'll need to explain even more. That's the trap. That's why people get louder over time. Longer in their answers. More emotional in their tone. They're not becoming clearer. They're becoming reactive. An untrained nervous system will sabotage trained skills. Let's be precise. When you explain under stress, you're not sharing information. You're trying to control perception. You want others to see you as reasonable, capable, justified. But authority doesn't control perception. It allows perception. That's the difference. Calm people don't chase how they're seen. They stay anchored in how they behave. Chapter 6, Detachment is how you stay unshakable. If you are easily shaken, it's not because life is hard. It's because you are attached. Attached to outcomes. Attached to approval. Attached to being understood. Attached to being right. That attachment is what pressure pulls on. That's the key. Detachment is not coldness. Detachment is control. And without it, you will never be unshakable. You have a choice. Why pressure finds your weak spots. Pressure doesn't attack randomly. It goes straight to what you care about most. Your reputation. Your results. Your image. Your sense of worth. When you are emotionally fused to these things, pressure doesn't just challenge you, it owns you. You rush. You explain. You react. Not because the situation demands it, but because attachment demands relief. Reaction is weakness. Response is power. What detachment actually means. Let's be clear. Detachment does not mean you don't care. It means you care without losing control. You still act. You still commit. You still perform. But you are no longer emotionally hostage to the outcome. That's the difference. Attachment says, this has to go my way. Detachment says, I'll handle whatever happens. That single shift changes everything. That's the key. Why attachment makes you predictable. Attachment makes you easy to read. People can feel it. They know what gets under your skin. They know what rushes you. They know what provokes you. And once people know that, they control the interaction. Detachment removes those hooks. When nothing pulls you emotionally, nothing can shake you. You don't need their permission to stay grounded. Real-world example, 2 people, same pressure. Imagine 2 professionals facing the same crisis. Same deadline. Same scrutiny. Same risk. One is attached. They pace. They overtalk. They defend. They panic internally. The other is detached. They slow down. They assess. They choose deliberately. Same situation. Different nervous systems. Guess who people trust? Guess who gets followed? Detachment is authority without force. Why detachment feels uncomfortable at first? Detachment feels wrong to emotional people. It feels like giving up control, because they confuse control with emotional engagement. But emotional engagement is not control. It's exposure. Detachment removes exposure. And exposure is where stress enters. That's the key. Attachment is a nervous system habit. Attachment isn't a mindset problem. It's a nervous system habit. Your body learned that certain outcomes equal safety. Approval equals safety. Success equals safety. Being understood equals safety. So when those things are threatened, your nervous system reacts. Detachment retrains that association. You teach your body, I am safe regardless of outcome. That's power. Why calm people look unbothered? Calm people aren't numb. They're unattached. They don't emotionally fuse with every situation. So when something goes wrong, they don't internalize it as threat. They see it as data. That perspective keeps them steady. That's the key. Attachment speeds you up, detachment slows you down. Attachment creates urgency. Urgency creates mistakes. Detachment creates patience. Patience creates precision. Calm people don't rush because they're not afraid of delay. They know delay doesn't equal loss. Reaction is weakness. Response is power. Say it again. Reaction is weakness. Response is power. The cost of being attached. Attachment costs you sleep, clarity, authority, reputation. Because when you're attached, you carry pressure long after the moment ends. Detached people recover faster. They don't replay. They don't spiral. They don't obsess. They move forward. That's unshakable behavior. Detachment versus avoidance. This matters. Detachment is not avoidance. Avoidance runs away from responsibility. Detachment faces responsibility. Without emotional collapse. You stay present. You stay engaged. You stay disciplined. But you don't let emotion drive behavior. That distinction separates strength from fragility. How to practice detachment in real time. Here's the discipline. When pressure hits, ask one question. What is required right now? Not, what do they think? How does this look? What if this goes wrong? Just, what is required? Then act on that, nothing more. That's detachment in action. You have a choice. The power of outcome independence. Outcome independence means this. You give full effort. Without emotional dependency on results. You show up prepared. Without needing validation. You commit fully. Without fear of failure. That mindset stabilizes your nervous system. And a stable nervous system is unshakable. Micro-training exercise. Practice this daily. When something doesn't go your way, pause for 5 seconds. Relax your shoulders. Slow your breath. Say internally, I'll handle whatever happens. That sentence trains detachment. Repetition builds stability. Why detachment creates respect. People respect those who don't emotionally lean on outcomes. Why? Because they feel solid. Predictable in behavior. Unpredictable in reaction. Detached people don't escalate. They de-escalate by presence alone. That's authority. Repetition anchor. Say it clearly. Attachment creates fragility. Detachment creates stability. Stability creates power. If detachment feels difficult, that's normal. Most people were never taught this. You're not losing passion. You're gaining control. And control is what allows you to last. Stay with this practice. You now understand this. Detachment is how you stay unshakable when pressure tries to pull you apart. But detachment alone is not enough. Because calm people don't just stay steady, they control the tempo. They decide when things move. Untouchable doesn't mean emotionless. It means unshaken. Chapter 7, Calm people control the pace. Power is not loud. Power is not fast. Power is not frantic. Power controls the pace. And the moment you let stress speed you up, you hand that power away. That's the key. Calm people don't win because they do more. They win because they decide when things move. You have a choice. Speed is a signal. Speed communicates before words do. Fast speech says, I'm under pressure. Fast movement says, I'm reacting. Fast decisions say, I want this over with. None of those signals create authority. They create doubt. Calm people understand something most don't. Whoever controls the pace controls the interaction. That's the key. Why stress always speeds you up? Stress creates urgency. Urgency narrows focus. Narrows thinking. Narrows options. Your nervous system believes speed equals safety. Act now. Fix this. Respond immediately. But urgency is not intelligence. Urgency is survival. And survival mode makes you sloppy. An untrained nervous system will sabotage trained skills. Real-world example, the rushed professional. You've seen this. Someone under pressure starts talking faster. They interrupt. They jump ahead. They think they're being efficient. They're not. They're broadcasting instability. Meanwhile, someone else speaks slower. Listens longer. Responds later. And without effort. They take control of the room. Same situation. Different pace. Guess who people follow? Calm people don't match energy. They set it. This is critical. Most people mirror the energy around them. If others rush, they rush. If others panic, they tense up. Calm people don't mirror. They lead. They lower the tempo. And when they do, others adjust automatically. That's dominance without aggression. That's the key. Why fast decisions feel smart, but aren't. Speed feels decisive. It feels confident. But under pressure, speed often hides fear. Fear of silence. Fear of delay. Fear of looking unsure. Calm people tolerate uncertainty. They don't need immediate closure. They wait until clarity appears. And clarity always arrives faster for those who slow down. Reaction is weakness. Response is power. The hidden cost of rushing. Rushing costs you accuracy, credibility, respect, authority. Because people sense when decisions are forced. They feel the tension. And tension undermines trust. Calm creates space. Space creates better choices. That's the key. Pace is a nervous system issue. This matters. You don't rush because you choose to. You rush because your nervous system is activated. Fast body, fast mind, fast mouth. So slowing the pace starts in the body. Breath first. Posture second. Words last. That order never changes. How calm people slow things down without resistance. Calm people don't announce slowing down. They demonstrate it. They pause before responding. They ask one clarifying question. They let silence sit. That silence does something powerful. It forces others to slow down. You don't need their permission to pause. Silence is a pace controller. Silence is not empty. It's pressure. And pressure makes emotional people rush. Calm people use silence deliberately. They let others fill the gap. Reveal urgency. Expose weakness. That's strategy. That's the key. Why pace equals leverage. Whoever is less rushed has more leverage. They can wait. They can choose. They can say no. Rushed people can't. They're already compromised. Calm people understand this instinctively. What you must stop doing. If you want control of pace, stop this. Stop replying immediately. Stop interrupting. Stop finishing others' sentences. Stop rushing decisions to relieve tension. These are stress behaviors, not leadership behaviors. What you must start doing. Here's the replacement discipline. Count one breath before responding. Speak 10 to 20% slower than usual. Allow silence after you finish speaking. Delay decisions when possible. These small shifts change everything. You have a choice. The discipline of delayed response. Delayed response is not avoidance. It's regulation. You give your nervous system time to settle. And when it settles, your thinking sharpens. That delay protects you from regret. That's the key. Why calm people are hard to manipulate. Manipulation relies on urgency. Pressure tactics. Deadlines. Emotional pushes. Calm people don't bite. They slow the interaction. And once urgency disappears, manipulation loses power. Daily training exercise. Practice this today. In your next stressful interaction, slow your breathing deliberately. Lower your voice slightly. Pause after each sentence. Notice how the dynamic changes. That's pace control. Repetition anchor. Say it clearly. Speed reveals stress. Stillness reveals control. Whoever controls the pace controls the outcome. If slowing down feels uncomfortable, that's normal. Your nervous system is used to urgency. This is retraining. And retraining always feels strange at first. Stay with it. You now understand this. Calm people don't chase moments. They shape them. By controlling the pace, they control the interaction. But there is one tool even more powerful than pace. Silence. And most people misuse it. Execution leaves evidence. If you're still listening, you're already doing the work. Chapter 8, Silence is a strategic weapon. Silence makes most people uncomfortable. That's why it works. They rush to fill it. They talk too much. They reveal urgency. They expose weakness. And while they're doing that, calm people are taking control. That's the key. Silence is not absence. Silence is pressure. And if you know how to use it, it becomes one of the most powerful tools you'll ever develop. You have a choice. Why silence feels dangerous. Silence feels dangerous to an untrained nervous system. It feels like exposure. Like losing control. Like something bad might happen if you don't speak. So people talk. They explain. They justify. They add details nobody asked for. Not because it's smart, but because their body is trying to relieve tension. Silence threatens the survival system. That's why most people avoid it. And that's exactly why it works. Silence reveals who is regulated. Silence is a filter. It reveals who is calm. And who is emotionally dependent on control. Regulated people can sit in silence. Reactive people cannot. They fidget. They interrupt. They rush to speak. And in doing so, they tell you everything. Silence doesn't weaken your position. It exposes theirs. That's the key. Real-world example, the silent advantage. Picture a negotiation. One person keeps talking. Explaining terms. Clarifying intentions. Filling space. The other listens. Nods. Says nothing. Who has leverage? Always the quieter one. Because silence forces the other side to move. They reveal priorities. They lower standards. They negotiate against themselves. Silence didn't say a word. But it changed the outcome. Why talking feels like control, but isn't. Talking feels like control because it creates activity. Activity feels productive. Silence feels passive. But activity is not authority. Authority is containment. Silence contains energy. Talking releases it. And once you release it, you can't get it back. That's the key. Silence is how you hold position. When challenged, emotional people react. They defend. They argue. They explain. Calm people hold position. They don't rush to correct perception. They don't chase agreement. They let silence do the work. Silence says, "I'm not threatened." That message lands immediately. You don't need their permission to stay quiet. The biology of silence. Here's what silence does biologically. It slows the interaction. It reduces stimulation. It gives your nervous system time to regulate. Meanwhile, the other person's nervous system ramps up. They feel the gap. And people don't like gaps. So they fill them. With words. With emotion. With mistakes. That's strategic advantage. Why silence feels like losing, at first. Silence feels like losing when you equate control with reaction. But reaction is not control. Reaction is surrender. Silence feels uncomfortable because you're not used to containment. Containment is discipline. And discipline always feels restrictive before it feels powerful. You have a choice. Silence versus avoidance. This matters. Silence is not avoidance. Avoidance runs away from responsibility. Strategic silence stays present without emotional leakage. You listen. You observe. You choose when to speak. That's not weakness. That's command. When silence is most powerful. Silence is most powerful. After you've made your point. When someone is emotional. When pressure is being applied. When urgency is used against you. These are moments when words cost you leverage. Silence takes it back. Why emotional people hate silence. Silence removes feedback. Emotional people need feedback to feel safe. Approval. Resistance. Anything. Silence gives them nothing. And without feedback, they spiral. They talk more. Reveal more. Expose more. Calm people wait. That's the key. Silence forces others to show their hand. When you stay silent, people project. They assume. They explain. They overcommit. They show you what matters to them. They show you their pressure points. Silence turns observation into intelligence. The cost of talking too much. Talking too much under pressure costs you authority, negotiating power, mystery, respect. Because people trust what is restrained. They distrust what is spilled. Silence keeps your position intact. What you must stop doing. If you want to use silence as a weapon, stop this. Stop filling pauses. Stop answering unasked questions. Stop narrating your thinking. Stop reacting immediately. These habits come from stress, not discipline. What you must start doing. Here's the replacement behavior. Let pauses stretch. Answer only what's necessary. End sentences decisively. Wait before responding. Silence after clarity is strength. You have a choice. The discipline of not responding immediately. Immediate response is emotional. Delayed response is discipline. Delay gives you leverage. Delay gives you clarity. Delay gives you control. Calm people are never in a hurry to speak. They know silence works for them. Silence is confidence without performance. Confidence doesn't need to prove itself. Silence is proof. When you can sit quietly under pressure, people feel it. They sense stability. Stability attracts trust. Trust creates influence. That chain begins with silence. Training silence daily. Here's a simple daily practice. When someone finishes speaking, wait one full breath before replying. Just one. That breath breaks reaction. That breath builds discipline. Repeat it daily. Repetition anchor. Say it clearly. Silence is not weakness. Silence is leverage. Silence is pressure. Silence is control. If silence feels uncomfortable right now, that's a sign you're learning something important. Most people were never taught this. You're training restraint, and restraint is rare. Stay with it. Final reinforcement. Talking is easy. Silence is disciplined. And discipline always wins under pressure. You now understand this. Silence is not empty. It is intentional. It protects your authority and exposes emotional behavior in others. But silence only works when it's backed by something deeper. An internal stability that cannot be shaken. If this chapter helped clarify your thinking, let it settle before moving on. Chapter 9, Self-worth that can't be touched. If your self-worth can be shaken, you will always be controllable. People won't need to overpower you. They'll just pressure you. They'll rush you. They'll provoke you. They'll withhold approval. And you'll move. That's the key. Unstable self-worth makes calm impossible. Because when your value depends on outcomes, every moment becomes a threat. You have a choice. Why most people lose control under pressure? Most people think pressure breaks them. It doesn't. Pressure touches their self-worth. And when self-worth is fragile, the nervous system panics. You rush to protect your image. You explain to defend value. You react to restore status. Not because the situation demands it, but because your identity feels threatened. That's the real danger. Self-worth is the hidden control lever. This is uncomfortable, but necessary. Whoever can affect your self-worth can control your behavior. Praise controls you. Criticism controls you. Silence controls you. If your worth rises and falls with feedback, you will never be steady. That's the key. Why confidence isn't enough. Confidence is external. It depends on performance, results, validation. Self-worth is internal. It exists before success and survives failure. Confident people collapse under pressure. Grounded people don't. Calm doesn't come from believing you'll win. It comes from knowing you're intact even if you don't. Real-world example, the untouchable professional. You've seen this person. They get criticized publicly. They don't flinch. A project fails. They don't spiral. They're not arrogant. They're not detached from reality. They're anchored. Their worth is not up for negotiation. That's why they stay calm. Why emotional reactions are identity defenses. Anger is often defense. Over-explaining is defense. Withdrawal is defense. Defense of what? Self-worth. When worth feels threatened, the body reacts before the mind decides. That's why discipline fails without foundation. An untrained self-worth will sabotage trained skills. Where fragile self-worth comes from. Fragile self-worth is learned. It comes from being praised only for performance. Being corrected with shame. Being valued conditionally. So your system learns. I matter when I succeed. I'm at risk when I fail. That belief never leaves on its own. It must be retrained. You have a choice. Why calm requires internal permission. Calm requires permission to fail. Permission to disappoint. Permission to be misunderstood. Permission to not perform perfectly. Most people never give themselves this permission. So pressure owns them. Calm people already accepted the worst. That's why nothing controls them. The difference between ego and self-worth. Ego needs protection. Self-worth does not. Ego reacts to save face. Self-worth stays steady. Ego explains. Self-worth observes. Ego seeks relief. Self-worth chooses response. That's the key. How self-worth stabilizes the nervous system. When your worth is stable, threat perception drops. No threat, no panic. No panic, no rush. No rush, no regret. The body settles because nothing essential is at stake. Calm follows automatically. Why validation addiction is dangerous. Validation feels good, but dependence on it is costly. If you need approval, you'll talk too much. You'll explain too fast. You'll compromise too early. Because rejection feels like danger. Self-worth removes that danger. You don't need their permission. What untouchable self-worth sounds like internally? It sounds like this. This moment does not define me. I don't need to win right now. I can handle discomfort. Those thoughts calm the body. And a calm body makes intelligent decisions. That's the key. What you must stop doing. If you want untouchable self-worth, stop tying identity to outcomes. Taking feedback personally. Reacting to protect image. Explaining to prove value. These habits keep you fragile. What you must start doing. Here's the discipline. Separate behavior from identity. Treat mistakes as data, not verdicts. Let discomfort exist without fixing it. Measure yourself by conduct, not reaction. Self-worth is built through consistency, not affirmation. The practice of internal grounding. Use this under pressure. Say internally, my worth is not under review. Say it again. My worth is not under review. That sentence interrupts panic. That's the key. Why people with stable self-worth are hard to manipulate. Manipulation needs insecurity. It needs fear of loss. Fear of rejection. Fear of failure. Stable self-worth removes those levers. Without levers, pressure collapses. Why silence works only with self-worth. Remember Chapter 8. Silence fails without self-worth. Because silence feels unbearable. When your value feels threatened. But with stable worth, silence is easy. You're not hiding. You're not waiting. You're grounded. Daily training exercise. Every day, practice this. Do one thing without explaining it. Let it be misunderstood. Let discomfort rise and pass. That trains internal stability. Repetition anchor. Say it clearly. Self-worth that depends on outcomes is fragile. Self-worth that depends on discipline is untouchable. If this chapter feels heavy, that's normal. Most people never examine self-worth this deeply. You're doing work that creates long-term calm. Stay with it. Final reinforcement. Calm is not confidence. Calm is not control. Calm is safety inside yourself. And when nothing inside is threatened, nothing outside can shake you. You've now built the foundation. A nervous system that can settle. A pace you control. Silence you can hold. Self-worth that doesn't move. There is one final layer. The one that turns calm into a permanent advantage. What you repeat, you become. Most people stop before this point. You didn't. Chapter 10, Discipline is the final advantage. Talent gets attention. Discipline gets control. And control decides who stays when pressure removes everyone else. That's the key. At the highest level, calm is no longer rare. Intelligence is no longer rare. Confidence is no longer rare. Discipline is. You have a choice. Why discipline is the final layer. Everything you've learned so far leads here. Calm without discipline fades. Insight without discipline leaks. Self-worth without discipline drifts. Discipline is what locks everything in place. It turns moments of composure into a permanent operating system. That's the key. Discipline is not motivation. Motivation is emotional. It rises. It falls. It depends on mood. Discipline is structural. It functions when you don't feel like it. It holds when pressure hits. It remains when emotion disappears. Calm people don't rely on feeling ready. They rely on structure. Why emotional people lose their edge over time? Emotional people start strong. They're intense. They're driven. They're reactive. But over time, intensity burns out. Why? Because emotion is expensive. Discipline is efficient. An emotional system needs constant fuel. A disciplined system runs quietly. That's the key. Real-world example, the one who outlasts. Look at who lasts. Not the loudest. Not the fastest. Not the most talented. The most consistent. They show up the same under pressure as they do under calm. That sameness is discipline. And sameness creates trust. Discipline is how you become predictable under pressure. Predictability sounds boring. It isn't. Predictability under pressure is the highest form of reliability. People trust those who don't change when stressed. Discipline removes volatility. That's power. Why discipline feels restrictive at first. Discipline limits options. It narrows behavior. That's why emotional people resist it. They confuse freedom with flexibility. But flexibility under pressure is instability. Discipline removes choices so you don't sabotage yourself. You have a choice. Discipline is pre-decided behavior. Discipline means you decide in advance. How you speak under stress. How you respond to criticism. How you act when tired. How you behave when things go wrong. So you don't negotiate with yourself later. Negotiation invites emotion. Pre-decision eliminates it. That's the key. Why calm alone is not enough. Calm is a state. Discipline is a system. States change. Systems persist. You can be calm today and reactive tomorrow without discipline. Discipline makes calm repeatable. The nervous system loves discipline. This matters biologically. Predictable behavior creates safety signals. Safety calms the nervous system. So discipline doesn't fight calm, it reinforces it. The body relaxes because it knows what comes next. Discipline is invisible power. Discipline doesn't announce itself. It shows up as measured speech, consistent posture, deliberate action, controlled timing. People feel it before they understand it. That's authority. Why most people abandon discipline under stress? Because stress tempts shortcuts. Just this once. Just to relieve tension. Just to explain. Just to react. That, just once, destroys consistency. Discipline refuses exceptions. That's why it works. What discipline looks like in real time. Under pressure, discipline looks like breathing before speaking, waiting instead of rushing, saying less, not more, holding posture even when uncomfortable. These are small acts, but they compound. The cost of undisciplined calm. Undisciplined calm is temporary. It disappears when you're tired, you're challenged, you're criticized. Discipline holds behavior even when calm is threatened. That's the difference. What you must stop doing. If you want discipline as an advantage, stop trusting willpower. Reacting because it felt right. Letting mood decide behavior. Making exceptions under pressure. Emotion cannot run the system. What you must start doing. Replace it with this. Create response rules. Default to slower behavior. Treat discipline as identity. Measure success by consistency. That's the key. Discipline removes drama. Drama requires unpredictability. Discipline removes it. No emotional spikes. No reactive cycles. No regret loops. Just behavior. Clean. Repeatable. Controlled. Why discipline creates long-term respect. People don't respect intensity forever. They respect stability. They trust those who don't change under pressure. Discipline creates that reputation. Quietly. Discipline is self-respect in action. Discipline says, I don't abandon myself under stress. I don't betray my standards for relief. I don't give my authority away. That's self-respect. And self-respect is felt immediately. How discipline protects your future. Every undisciplined reaction creates consequences you must clean up later. Discipline prevents damage. It protects relationships. It protects reputation. It protects opportunity. That's long-term thinking. The daily discipline rule. Here's a rule to live by. Never make decisions while emotionally activated. Pause. Regulate. Then decide. This rule alone will change your life. Why discipline is rare. Discipline demands boredom, repetition, restraint, consistency. Most people chase stimulation. Calm, disciplined people outlast them quietly. That's the key. When discipline becomes identity, eventually, discipline stops feeling forced. It becomes default. You don't ask, how should I respond? You already know. That's mastery. Repetition anchor. Say it clearly. Emotion reacts. Calm observes. Discipline decides. Again. Emotion reacts. Calm observes. Discipline decides. If this feels demanding, it's because it is. But this is the work that separates temporary growth from permanent change. You're building something stable. Stay with it. Final reinforcement. Calm keeps you steady. Silence protects your position. Self-worth keeps you grounded. But discipline makes it permanent. Discipline is not harsh. It's protective. Closing transition. You now understand the full system. Pressure is inevitable. Emotion is automatic. But behavior is chosen. You have a choice. And with discipline, that choice becomes reliable. This is where it ends. Not with motivation. Not with inspiration. But with responsibility. This channel exists to sharpen your mindset, not to entertain your emotions. If that's what you're here for, you're in the right place. This is where it ends. Not with motivation. Not with inspiration. But with responsibility. Because now you know something most people never learn. Pressure is not the problem. Stress is not the enemy. Lack of control is. That's the key. What you now understand. You've seen it clearly. Pressure doesn't break people. It exposes them. It exposes rushed thinking, emotional speech, defensive behavior. And you now understand why. Your nervous system defaults to survival, not success. Reaction, not response. Urgency, not clarity. And if you don't train it deliberately, it will sabotage you automatically. You have a choice. The question that follows you now. From this moment forward, every stressful situation will ask you the same question. Will you react? Or will you respond? Will emotion decide? Or will discipline decide? There is no neutral ground anymore. Awareness removes excuses. That's the key. Why calm is the divider. Calm is not a personality trait. It's not luck. It's not confidence. Calm is trained behavior under pressure. And calm people always outlast emotional ones. Because calm creates trust. Trust creates influence. Influence creates opportunity. That chain never breaks. What the world is actually watching. The world is not watching what you say. It's watching how you behave under stress. How you pause. How you breathe. How you speak. How you hold yourself. That's where authority is decided. Calm people don't demand control. They naturally receive it. Why most people fall back. Most people understand this, but still fail to live it. Why? Because discipline is quiet. It doesn't feel exciting. It doesn't give instant relief. Reaction does. But reaction always costs later. Discipline protects your future. That's the key. What changes now? From now on, you slow your breathing when pressure hits. You slow your speech. You slow your movement. You stop explaining yourself under stress. You stop rushing decisions to relieve discomfort. You stop handing authority to urgency. You choose response. Every time. The new standard. You don't measure success by outcomes anymore. You measure it by behavior. Did you stay composed? Did you hold silence? Did you maintain discipline? If yes, you won. Even if the moment didn't go your way. That mindset makes you unshakable. Reinforcement. Say it clearly. Reaction is weakness. Response is power. Again. Reaction is weakness. Response is power. That is the foundation you now stand on. Your final challenge. Here is your challenge. The next time pressure hits, and it will. Pause. 1 breath. 2 seconds. Slow your body first. The mind will follow. Let others rush. Let others react. Let others explain. You stay grounded. Because calm is no longer just a skill. It's your advantage. If this audiobook helped you, we invite you to leave a comment and share what stood out to you. We're genuinely glad you spent this time here, training focus, discipline, and composure. If you'd like to support this work, please like and subscribe so you don't miss the next audiobooks coming soon. Thank you for listening. Final words. Move quietly. Stay disciplined. And remember, stay calm under pressure, or be replaced.